Welcome to episode 3 of Savage Discourse. I have Schmutz in my beard, apparently.
You do.
Which is what, a Yiddish word for
Shit.
for shit? Schmutz?
I think. I don't know.
Oh,
But
thank you for noticing that, Kyle.
yeah, it's still there.
Yeah.
There you go.
Well, you know what? That ties really well into the message of today.
It does.
You know, you don't always know. So, for those of you who joined us last week, we talked about the illusions of self, where we talked on a lot of different topics, a lot of psychological phenomena, Dunning-Kruger effect, Lake Wobegon, the Pygmalion effect, and just different anecdotes from our own life. This week, on episode 3 of Savage Discourse, we're going to be talking about living with uncertainty. And maybe some of that uncertainty is that I have schmutz in my beard.
You never really know what's on your face.
That is a very apt metaphor for the topic today. Because we talk a lot about meditating and like how, in the meditation app with Sam Harris, Waking Up, second plug, is your field fades into everything. Everything is, everything happens in the same place where consciousness is. So honestly, the schmutz could be anywhere. I feel like it's on my face, but it's within my realm. I am I am replete with schmutz. I am nothing but schmutz. I'm schmutzful.
Schmutzful. Now there's a made up Yiddish word.
Schmutzful. Yeah, I asked Kyle when he said that. I was like, "Is that a real word?" And he's like, "Yeah."
Dude, I've heard that from somewhere. Where was that? It's like, I feel like it's Workaholics. He was like, "You got some schmutz on your jammy jams."
That sounds accurate.
Yeah,
some schmutz. Well, so today's topic. For those of you listening, we are going to be talking about living with uncertainty. And this is kind of in the theme that we strive to speak about here on Savage Discourse, with anything within the realm of human experience. And living with uncertainty is I would say it's a pretty universal. It's pretty hard to avoid living without uncertainty.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure everyone has uncertainty at all times. I don't think I don't think anyone has a 100% planned out life.
Yeah, it seems like a pretty static attribute of being alive. That things are just things have the semblance of permanence, and things have the semblance of existing forever. But that's not really true.
Yeah, and I feel like that's kind of what we strive for, is to get rid of uncertainty, to have like everything feel very structured. And I don't think we really take the time to think that that's not a possibility.
No.
Unless you want to give up all your freedom.
Correct, because living without uncertainty kind of has the illusion, especially at first stroke of. I was trying to think of another. There's another, like first glance, maybe first whatever. It seems like everything becomes chaos. Like nothing becomes chaos. Seems to be a pretty common theme in our talks.
Yeah, we're chaotic, bro.
Chaotic neutral. I'd like to be lawful. I'd like to be chaotic lawful.
I think I'm chaotic good. Wait, is lawful good?
So it's like lawful, chaotic. Oh no.
I thought it was neutral, good, and evil.
Yes. So good and evil are like, there's like a 9. I can see like it's a 3x3 matrix. Man, I would be a terrible dungeon leader, terrible DM, dungeon master.
Oh yeah, all that came from World of Warcraft, didn't it?
I think so. Or it came from Dungeon.
All right, that's what I meant. Yeah, or Dungeons and
D&D.
Dragons. Yeah. I thought it was just like a personality test. I was like, oh cool, I'm chaotic, chaotic good.
A person, dude. Can you imagine going to a job and they're like, roll the die and create your character?
Yeah, I should have suspected something because all the questions dealt with taverns and warlocks and shit.
You go to a job at a whatever, and they're just like, all right, before we his voice starts out, he's like, welcome to the company. Before we get into the general task and order of operations, you must, and he like pulls out a hat, puts it on his head, you must roll your character, roll for fortitude and charisma, and
roll for full salary and benefits.
Exactly. And you're like, oh, you rolled a natural 0 on that, and you shan't be receiving your 401k.
Very unimpressive.
Or 50, yeah, whatever it is. Oh, I love that. And then he's like, well, it looks like you applied for the position of leader, but with those statistics, you might be better in the dungeon, which is what we refer to as the boiler room.
Enjoy.
Oh, I love that idea. Actually, so when I started at my last job, they did a personality metric called PI, predictive index.
Mm-hmm.
And we took that and prior to onboarding and everything. And it's really interesting because it gives you a measure of your skills. This is completely tangential to uncertainty. This does not have anything to do.
That's fine.
I might be able to find a way to rope it in.
Let's try. Let's see what we got.
Okay. So this is it's like you take it's like 400 questions or something where to ask you like, if you see Bob eating a sandwich and he rubs it all over the table and then puts it back in the fridge with someone else's name, what do you do? You're like, and the options are like, tell somebody, confront Bob, slap him across the face, and then like do nothing. And you're like, I think I'd probably just not start at this company if this is the people they have.
Yeah, Bob seems like a sociopath.
Yeah, Bob might be. I wonder. Yeah, maybe he's a Dunning-Kruger. Maybe he's afflicted by that. Anyway. So you take it and it gives you a readout, and then it sorts you into an archetype like maverick, creator, builder, different things. And I know I have mine somewhere. I don't remember what mine was. Maybe I can bring that up at a later episode. But I just think it's interesting.
Did you get paid to take that 400-point test?
I want to say I did. Whether I did or whether I didn't, it provided really interesting information and metrics about my personality. And to go what you were saying earlier, like there's a big standard. There's a Myers-Briggs personality trait.
Yeah,
which,
I
like,
took that.
If you see people with like, the 4 abbreviated letters like in a profile, or like they say like, oh, I'm an NJCW or something. That's like,
What are you?
Did
you take that?
I have actually not taken the M. Briggs.
You should take it. It's cool. I'm an INTJ.
Ooh, so intelligent, neurotic? Is that what it is?
I think is that introvert?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, introvert.
INT. What was the T?
Okay, well,
was it like technical or and then judgment?
This is obviously not our forte, but that's cool.
Yeah, I know.
So, we have these. Here we go. Here's the switchback.
All right.
So we have these attributes of ourselves, the personality test, and there's a lot of different measures. There's intelligent quotient, there's a Myers-Briggs, there's in psychology, I think it's psychology or social psychology, where it's called Ocean, and it's the 5 attributes of a personality. So openness, conscientiousness, extrovertedness, agreeableness, and neuroticism. And there's actually an extended one. So we have all these metrics to determine who we are and to determine our agenticity in this life, to what we can accomplish and what we do. But then life kind of doesn't have any of that. I see what I did there.
Yeah, that was really good.
See that? That was masterful.
That was really good.
Yeah, I'll be. If you want me for your plotting, George Lucas, I'll be available. Like story plotting, not like on his life plotting.
Yeah, I don't think George Lucas is doing anything anymore.
I think Disney took that over.
He's really upset about that too.
Oh, I know a lot of people are.
He's really upset that he sold that to Disney, and then they didn't listen to.
Damn it! I wish I hadn't sold my multi-billion-dollar company to a company that only makes hits out of things, but cuts me out of the creative processes.
Sad boy.
So, yeah. So we have a pretty good idea, and this actually kind of ties in with our second episode, the illusions of self, who we are and what we think, how we estimate ourselves, what our history is, what our future trajectory is. And, but this is kind of like we kind of operate like we're in a tunnel, like we're kind of going in one direction with all the attributes and the history and all of our perceptions of ourselves. But that does not encapsulate the general system that we operate in, which is one that is rife with entropy. Mm-hmm. What is entropy, Kyle?
Entropy is natural chaos.
Mm-hmm. It is actually, yes, that's good. It's actually the total amount of randomness in a system. Mm-hmm. And entropy plays a big role in everyday life. Things that we can control, things that we can't control, and kind of the illusion of control. Not in like the behavioral or like the fatalist kind of philosophy who say that like no matter what we do, it's predetermined. But like in like I'm going to do this today, and things are going to be okay because in my historical, when I reflect on that, things tend to be pretty okay, and I think for the most time they are. But I think the entropy in the system is such that there's macro and there's micro. Obviously, it occurs at a micro level that has these effects that kind of blossom and butterfly outwards. But like, like for example, I could be 2 minutes late to work and it could have absolutely no effect on anything. Or I could be 30 seconds late to work and then maybe have an accident, or, it's like there's no real determinable metric to kind of calculate what kind of foobar your life is going to experience day to day.
Yes. What is foobar, John?
Well, in my esteemed scientific throne, foobar, for those of you who don't know, means you're trying to get me to curse, Kyle.
No, I'm just trying to figure out what this means.
Trying to get me to say the F word.
That's a high level acronym.
It means fudged up beyond all recognition. I gave you the PG version of that.
Good.
G-rated. So I see what you're trying to do. I see the trap you're trying to lay for me.
If you say it first, then I can say it as much as I want.
It's so we can't make these videos. So we can make these videos not applicable to kids. Is I think what you're trying to get me.
Kids don't need to hear about this. They need to figure it out on their own. This is for adults.
This is for big boys and girls. So, so the topic of the day is living with uncertainty. And though we got off to a very silly start, which is beautiful, this is kind of a heavy topic because uncertainty, the word, really sounds pretty innocuous. It sounds very like non-threatening. Very, just like it's uncertain. Like, I don't know. It's not for sure. It could be, it could not be. I don't know. But uncertainty, as it applies to we as macro level organisms in a system embedded within other systems, it's a little bit heavy. It's a little bit more complex than that. So, so the first thing we wanted to talk about was some general uncertainty. So we're going to start kind of more simplistic, and then we're going to, honeycomb out into things that are more complicated. And there's a reason I said honeycomb. I can explain that later. So general uncertainty. So what does that mean? What does that mean to you?
General uncertainty?
Yeah, just like general uncertainty. What does that mean to you?
To me?
Kyle.
To Kyle.
To Kyle.
What does general uncertainty mean? I just mean like in life or day-to-day situations in life. Nothing's certain. Like you were saying earlier, like you get up, go to work, you could get stuck in traffic or no traffic, you get there on time. I mean, nothing. You can plan things out, but usually things do not go according to plan. So you just don't really have any sort of control in life.
Well, that escalated. Your traffic to your life is out of control.
Yeah, it's the same thing.
It really is the back of the same.
If you can't get to work on time, you have no control.
Yeah, maybe I've been out of control most of my life.
Oh yeah, I've accepted that early in my career.
Well, I was saying specifically regarding to issues of punctuality and tardiness.
What?
So I was saying, you said, if you can't get to work, maybe you're, there's a lack of control. And I was just saying, maybe that I was trying to make a gaffe. I was trying to make a jab at myself.
Oh no, I agree. That's why I said very early in my career.
So I didn't need to digress. So control.
That's the entropy of the podcast.
The entropy. Oh God, that's beautiful how you encapsulate the system within the system within the system. Oh God, that's beautiful. We got the Russian, the babushka. What are they called? the babushka dolls. That's not what they're called. The nested dolls.
I know what you're talking about.
Comment below if you know what those are called. We try to stay off of technology when we're talking, so it's more genuine. I don't want to look it up.
Oh, I thought you were saying the babushka dolls were technology.
No. So, the general uncertainty, and I think for most of us, if not all of us, this equates a lack of control in our lives. We plan, we make short-term plans, we make long-term plans, we make telescoping plans, which are long-term goals with embedded short-term objectives. And I think that given the general level of entropy in the world, it's actually pretty miraculous that anything gets accomplished.
Yeah.
But that is a basic scientific it kind of peels back the layers of reality and shows that we actually do live in a deterministic universe, which means that everything follows into patterns. So patterns determine. So if it was just all entropy, all chaos all the time, atoms wouldn't be able to stay in the orbit they are.
Yeah.
Matter would not condense into the forms and shapes that we recognize. So reality at a microscopic level, and then it scales, to the molar, macro level. Things are they're deterministic. They follow a pattern, but those patterns exist within endless amounts of potential possibilities.
Yeah.
And so, like you said, it could be, I'm going to be late to work, or it could be this. But that general uncertainty that we kind of tune out, I think, because the role of our central nervous system is actually not to let in. It is to let in stimuli and input, but it's also to filter out what we don't need. And I think it's kind of similar that we kind of filter out that like things are not going to go the way we hope them to. Because then we would just be living in anxiety all day long. Like, oh, nothing's going to happen. I don't know what's happening to anybody and anything. But in a very real way, that is kind of the way things are.
Yeah. I mean, anxiety is like it's an evolutionary byproduct, right, of evolution.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Yeah. Because, I mean, it's
a self-preservation system.
Yeah. Because you didn't want to like just fall asleep at night thinking everything was going to be fine and then get mauled by a tiger.
That's right. That is actually called a, so there's two errors in that. There's type 1 and type 2. Type 1 is a error where you think there is something and there's not. So that would be a type 2 error where you think there's not something and there is.
Oh, yeah.
and that's why our brains are designed to perceive these patterns, because if we didn't, then we would be committing the type 2 error, which is like, I'm going to go sleep. And then
it's all good.
Then you wake up dead.
This is why cavemen weren't hippies.
That's right. They didn't have the environmental stability. There was too much uncertainty. Maybe the entropy was turned up to 11 and, Pliocene or whenever, someone who's more historically oriented can tell us when the cavemen lived, through what epoch and era. That might be true. So when I think of uncertainty, as you said, uncertainty is kind of like for you that, anything could kind of happen within reason, because everything kind of scales into like, there's maybe like a 1% chance and a 0.5% chance. Richard Dawkins actually talks about that in his book about it is, oh man, I know it's called the teapot, but there's a Russell, Bertrand Russell's teapot. And it basically, it's not likely that there is a teapot that is circling Saturn, right now on a little saucer. But it's technically possible.
It's in the realm of possibility.
Yeah, it's not probable, but it's possible. So possibility just means that there is a above zero chance of something happening. So even if that's like point ad infinitum 0.00001%, it's possible, but that doesn't mean it's probable. So, there's a lot of things that happen and give us uncertainty. Like maybe, I don't know, can you think of anything right now that's happening, that's going on, that affects millions of people all over the world that would be considered a product of uncertainty and the entropy?
Nope, this has been a pretty stable year.
I can't think of one thing.
Not a single thing.
No.
Yeah.
If only there was a global phenomenon that affected everyone. I guess we'll wait till next year.
Yeah, I bet 2021 is gonna suck.
Yeah, it can't beat this year. This year's rocking.
It's been great.
Yeah, this year's been great.
Everything's thriving.
Everything's stable. People are happy. Relationships. We've been more mobile than we've ever been as a people.
We've connected with more people face to face than ever.
Oh, absolutely, with no restrictions at all. God, it has been really the year of the face to face interaction, hasn't it? It really has been.
It would suck if anything got in the way of that.
So, we talked about car breaking down and, plans following through. But, there's all kinds of other things that, kind of happen and play into that uncertainty. There's a lot of different domains of life where things can go wrong, like your day-to-day, your routine, your health, maybe your financial situation.
Yeah.
Do you know anything about that?
Yeah. I'm probably living in the most uncertainty I've ever lived in my life right now.
Oh, yeah. Tell me about that.
Well, first of all, I'm super unemployed.
Things are better than they've ever been, Kyle. How do you find yourself so unemployed? Not just unemployed, but with a capital S.
Oh
super
yeah,
unemployed.
like it's like I don't even have prospects for a job. No, I'm just kidding. I could probably get a job if I wanted to,
Yeah.
but
It's out there.
yeah, it's out there. I was just DoorDash or something, or sell my body.
Ooh, what? I'm looking to. I'm in that market.
You want some feet pics?
I've seen and smelled those feet.
Well,
As long as they're not odor vision.
that's only after a hard day of work. My feet have been smelling good lately.
No work to be done.
No work to be done. No feet to be smelly. All right. Anyway, so there's that. And then I just recently moved and
That's right.
rented a U-Haul. And
I meant to help you with that, but I was geographically displaced.
that's okay. You were there in spirit.
Yeah.
I wish you were there to drive the U-Haul, though, because a third party wrecked it. And I got the insurance, but it may or may not cover it. So I either am 100% fine or I owe U-Haul $10,000.
$10,000?
$10,000, John.
Are you sure that they didn't accidentally scribble a few extra zeros on the end? That seems
No, I'm not sure of
exorbitant.
anything because they won't tell me anything. When I call them, they're like, well, there's no claim to be had, but there's really... What?
Just watching you pull a long, wiry hair out of your sock
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is.
as you're talking about the uncertainty in your life.
I don't know whose hair that was. Anyway,
That is an exorbitant amount. That seems like an unrealistic amount for a little accident, especially. Yeah, we've talked about that.
yeah, I mean, it's probably going to be fine. But that's what I'm saying. You don't know.
No, you really don't. Especially, well, and that kind of encapsulates and kind of is the perfect, example because that was out of your control. That had nothing to do with you.
Mm-hmm.
You rented it. This third party drove the vehicle, and then while they were, while it was under their care, that accident happened.
Yeah. So, yeah, the problem is for any U-Haul experts out there, this third party didn't actually wreck the U-Haul she was driving. She wrecked another U-Haul on the way out of the parking lot and didn't realize it. So that's the gray area we're in. We're not sure if the insurance covers that or not.
I love that. The damage was not to the thing you rented. It was to a completely separate thing that the insurance probably doesn't cover.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
but it was
beautiful.
another U-Haul.
That's beautiful, yeah.
And the U-Haul insurance should cover U-Hauls. So I don't know. I'm probably going to get a bill in like 4 years with interest.
They're going to be like, you actually owe us your firstborn child.
I'll be all right. I could just name him U-Haul. It'd be good to advertise.
Just name him Ulysses Hall. So, and I'm glad you brought that up because that is obviously not a funny thing. We're able to laugh at it. That's a great coping strategy for dealing with the rolling with the waves and the punches of life. But yeah, I mean, that really that's a great example because so many times, I mean, things, we just waking up in the morning is kind of this promise gifted to us by the universe. It's a twofold promise. One is that you're still alive and you're going to, I would say reasonably assume that you're going to get through the day. The second thing is that anything and everything can happen to you during that day. There's two promises, I think. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's a terrible, awful thing that's happened. But, I appreciate you sharing that because, I think that's a great thing, uncertainty. And, the uncertainty and the way it manifests for me is a little bit different. It's kind of in a different domain. Financial concern is obviously a huge thing, especially now in this perfect year where absolutely nothing is happening. Mm-hmm. And everyone, people have had more money than they've ever had. And
stock market's
up. Our as a country and as a human race, our health is so prosperous. Mm-hmm. But there's other domains other than financial, and for me, it's kind of one that's more existential. It's life, and that's, and this is just to kind of veer into another lane. This is kind of hard for me to talk about because it is very personal to me. But I've talked to them about this too, and that kind of adds a little bit of humor to it. But I am terrified at a very existential, personal level of my parents passing away and dying.
Yeah.
And, that's kind of an uncertainty that I have experienced for years. And I don't know when it actually started, but probably in my 20s, especially as I was going through my college years, which we can elucidate in other episodes. And, so my mind was into some different places. And, I think maybe it opened me up to that experience of, the impermanence as Ram Dass, who I'm going to talk about a little bit later, called the dance of impermanence of life. And so, my fear of them, dying has been a very real force for me. And not even force, like just this presence, I think. And, of what it would be like to watch someone you love and care to deteriorate biologically, mentally, for them to not have the same, the semblance of the personality they do, the witticisms, their, the interactions, the memories, if it does happen that way. And, and also, the deeper level down is like, what happens if one of them goes first? What happens if the other one, they live, out in the middle of nowhere, and, who would do the caretaking, and what does that look like? And all of the kind of force of that presses in on me when I allow myself to open up to it, or whenever I kind of, I guess maybe the opposite is whenever I kind of grapple with those issues, is that's when it kind of presses down on me. So yeah, that's kind of my relationship with uncertainty. That's kind of my most poignant, most salient example I can think of, outside of the day-to-day stuff. And it's heavy and it weighs on you, and, it makes me, and I think the other thing is, I've talked to a lot of people about this, a lot of amazing people who, just kind of listen to me piss and whine, is that, I haven't really lost any, I've experienced loss, but not in like the direct personal sense of that. And so I don't really know what to expect. And the people who I have spoken to who have undergone these, these experiences have told me, there's really no way to prepare for it. You just kind of survive and get through it. And so, and this kind of ties to our previous episodes, on mindfulness. I kind of create a lot of my own suffering, especially because when I talk to my parents about it, they're very debonair. My dad will just, we'll just be sitting there, in the living room, and we're all just enjoying a nice, familial visit. And then it'll go quiet, and he'll be like, I don't have that much longer to live. And I'm just like, okay,
sweet.
And what's the segue from that? What's the segue into, and what's the segue out of this? And it's just, like, I've lived a good life, and when he and I have spoken about mortality and about, the uncertainty of the future, and he's getting older, and he's actually, I think, maybe outlived his father. And my mom has a rare blood disorder that is kind of a chronic thing. So both of the timers, the kind of biological clocks are kind of unreadable. They're kind of indecipherable. And but he just says, I've lived a long life, I've done a lot of things, and I feel very I feel like I'm getting. He's like, I'm not there yet, but I can see how I'm beginning to be okay with going and not raging into that night.
Yeah. I'm glad that old people do accept death like that, but I don't like how vocal they are about it.
Dude, me either. Especially not like when I actually, one of my practicum placements when I was in grad school was at a nursing home, and we were doing behavior work there because, for Alzheimer's and dementia patients, the presentation of those symptoms is almost, I wouldn't say, there's actually a subdiscipline in our field called behavioral gerontology, but I would say that they're similar enough to autism that some of the practices we have apply. And if it's not that, then the laws of behavior that we're using and the learning theory and everything should still apply to them. And I just remember going into a room when we actually conducted an MMSE, which stands for Mini Mental Status Exam, and it actually directly identifies what stage of what part of the brain is deteriorating or losing. So I would ask them like what the date is, what the month is, what their name is, what their birthday is, and all these different questions, and ask them to do different tasks, to read different things, and that would show us what part of the brain is maybe malfunctioning or in decline. And I just remember going into this woman's room, and she was just kind of sitting and staring out the window, and I went up to her and I was like, hey, all the people are gathering, all your friends and everybody is gathering out in the main room. They're doing I think we were doing a karaoke or something. And I was like, we're doing a karaoke and everyone's going to be there. It's going to be really fun. And she was like, well, my friends are all dead. My family doesn't come visit me anymore. And I was like, oh,
Oh, okay.
All right. Well, everyone's out there. It's going to be fun. I mean, there's plants outside. There's flowers that other residents have been growing. There's all this life and this beautiful menagerie of things to see and do. You know, do you want to be a part of that? And she's like, no, I'm just waiting for Jesus to take me home.
Oh, that's nice.
I know. And I was like, okay, well, I still have to conduct this MMSC. So are you okay with that? She's like, do what you have to do. So,
Cool.
and she actually seemed, she was reasonably, if not more so, like well within, she still maintained all her faculties of mind. Like she was not deteriorated, you know, or one might think, you know, at that point. But, so yeah, you know, for me, death, to get back, you know, death is, you know, just the end. And I think it's not just us, and I don't want to turn this episode into a death rant.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we can definitely do that in another one.
Yeah.
There's a lot to say about
really
that.
Enjoy that.
Yeah, but you know, not turning it into a death rant.
No, the future death rant.
Oh,
yeah.
I'm already like, I've already got goose pimples.
Oh yeah.
Talking
Talk
about the end of existence.
Yeah. Can't wait.
Nothing gets me more pumped than not being able to experience another moment again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's cool to think about.
No. So anyway, a little bit of dark humor for you there. So yeah, the general uncertainty, you know, and that's kind of that to me is kind of the bigness. And I know there's a lot of anxiety and other things and uncertainty that really fear, you know, like a lot of my anxiety whenever I feel it very strongly, which I've worked through in my cognitive behavior therapy, is, you know, that I'm going mad, or that my mind is out of control, or that I'm not in control. And that's a very common experience with anxiety. And that kind of uncertainty, you know, that's enough to cripple you and not make you want to do anything, not make you want to live. It actually creates existential avoidance, which we talked about before, where you're you don't do anything that pushes you. So, you know, there's a lot of different ways that uncertainty can really, you know, reduce your quality of life.
Mm-hmm.
If you really think about it.
Yeah. If you let it in.
Yeah. If you
let it bother you.
Yeah. If you let it in, let it bother you. If it becomes a daily factor in your algorithm of day-to-day life, if you let it factor in, it can definitely be there. So yeah, you know, but I'm wondering if there's any way to handle uncertainty, or if there's any way to if there's anybody who's ever talked about it in a way that provides practical solutions.
You talking about Mr. Thickneck?
Oh, I didn't know you were going to just go right out and call him Thickneck. I thought we were going to build up to it. So we are talking about Thich Nhat Hanh, who Kyle has mentioned before, who's written many, many books and is a Vietnamese
Vietnamese monk.
And when we were writing our script, we called him Thickneck because that's kind of is just a funny way to, I guess, make a really important person's name sound funny.
I'm sure he'd be cool with it.
Yeah, he'd probably be like, your perceptions of who I am have no bearing over me.
Like I will legally change my name to show I don't care.
It couldn't mean less to me. Couldn't affect me less. So what is Mr. Thich Nhat Hanh? What does he think about all this the kind of the chaos and the uncertainty day to day?
I mean, just like Buddhism in general is kind of about not identifying with your emotions and anxieties and all that. It's more of realizing that everything comes and goes, and it's honestly just a part of life. Like I said earlier, like if the quicker you realize that you're never going to get to, I mean, it kind of sounds nihilistic, but you're never going to get to a point where everything is perfect and everything's great. I mean, the quicker you realize that uncertainty is just a part of day-to-day life, you can actually enjoy life a little better. Because I mean, I've realized with my own anxieties, I used to have anxiety really bad.
Really?
And yeah, really bad.
Huh.
Yeah.
I don't know if we've talked about that.
Oh. Well, we can.
Yeah, dish, girl, dish.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we'll talk about another episode about anxiety.
Okay. All right.
But yeah, I used to have it really bad, and I mean, maybe I still have it. I'm just good at dealing with it. I don't really know. But it doesn't affect me like it used to, because I realized when whatever you're worrying about, when you finally solve it or get over it, then something else just fills that void. You know,
there's always that thorn. There's always that festering something.
Yeah.
There's
always something to be worried about.
Interesting.
You know, so
okay, that's really insightful. So you kind of caught the the pattern that you were in, that like, well, I've got this, but it's resolved, but now there's this, and then you realize at a meta level, like, oh, there's always something.
Yeah, always. There's never been a point where I'm just like, oh, I'm 100% carefree and nothing can bother me without accepting that. And the only way to really be 100% carefree is to realize that you can't be in a weird way. You know what I mean? There's one of my would it be considered a meme if it's not funny? It was like a picture with what?
Yes, it absolutely would. Oh my God, I've waited my entire life to do this.
All right, let's
in like a recorded format for everyone out there who does not know what the word, the etymology of the word meme. Because you did this to yourself.
I know.
Meme was created by the British biologist Richard Dawkins in his book, The Selfish Gene. I think it was either 1972 or 73. He coined the term meme to apply to units of cultural transmission, like religion or mannerisms or traditions. And he used that word because it's etymologically the way the word is spelled is very similar in its formulation to gene. And so he said that the way genes get mixed and passed on through different generations, memes do as well. And so a meme is basically any unit of cultural transmission you can think of: art, music, history, anything that a human being passes to another human being, not genetically, but vocally or through text or anything else. So if it's a picture or it's anything that someone is transmitting, so memes are artwork that are on walls, memes are styles in dress, memes are anything. So yeah, so there you go. You're welcome. You earned yourself that.
Glad we cleared that up.
I'm going to step down from my throne now. It's a long walk.
Sit on down. You think he gets a royalty for every meme?
Every time someone mentions... Oh, right. Oh, my God, dude. No wonder he's kind of... Well, no, he's still writing and authoring and giving speeches and everything. But I was going to say, that would be a reason to step out of the limelight, because even if it was like 0.1 cent...
Yeah, it'd be like Bezos money.
Oh.
You think you can monetize memes? You think people make money off of memes?
I think that people maybe do hosting websites with advertising on them.
Anyway, my favorite meme, it's this, I have it on my phone. It's this Buddhist, I assume, meditating in like a lake, like sitting in like a rock in the middle of the lake, and it says, "Relax, nothing is under control."
Wow.
Isn't that cool?
Oh my God, that's very evocative. That's wow.
Yeah.
And that just shows, well, and it's kind of like, like the picture from, what is it, the 50s or 60s, where the monk in Tiananmen Square, or the protester, was it?
Yeah, it was just a dude going grocery shopping.
Yeah, that's right. The one who set himself on fire.
Oh, no, that was a monk. I thought you were talking about the dude that got ran over by the tank.
No. Oh, that's right. No, sorry, I was conflating two different events. Yeah, so the one in the one protesting the war, yeah, who set him. I mean, there is so much power in just connecting, in turning off your internal faucet of just this endless, because the brain, 90 or 80% of what the brain does is like chatter to it. So, or in terms of what our experience of what the brain does is just it's chatter, where it's just like blah 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 blah. You should get a blah blah blah. You need to blah blah blah. You're not good. You remember that time you blah blah blah. Remember that hot person you went to high school with, blah blah blah. It's like all these things that really don't. They just keep us from the moment, and they keep us. And there's such an amazing power to just being present, and to also the mind body state of meditation. It's just it's incredible. It's crazy to think about.
Yeah, meditation obviously helps with uncertainty. I assume I'm just going to talk about meditation every episode.
That's your maybe you'll get sponsored by
meditation.
We're from Meditation Inc., where we think so you don't have to.
Michael Caine.
Michael Caine is the CEO.
Michael Caine meditates.
You think his internal voice is like, Michael Caine, you are now thinking. You are engaging in metacognition, Michael Caine. You are a handsome devil.
You are one handsome devil, Michael Caine. You are now identifying as Michael Caine. That's my voice when I meditate.
Do not get swept up in the now, Mr. Caine.
Stay humble. Stay chipper.
Yeah.
Keep a stiff upper lip.
Keep it. You're more. Oh, what is it? There was a great British idiom that my one of my friends told me when I worked at my last job, and I cannot remember it. It's like all talk and no trouser or something like that. You're all something and no trouser. I'm sorry for that friend out there. If you can correct me, please do.
Yeah, right in the comment section.
Yeah,
friend.
So uncertainty, I think meditation is an incredible force for dealing. It's an incredible force to do with a lot of, to deal with anything really, because there is just reality. There's nothing separate from that in terms of our experience, in terms of our sensorium, which is sensorium is all our inputs in our brain and our skin and everything that creates our, this epiphenomenon of our perception of reality. And there's really just, that reality, the way we perceive it, and, the way that we react to it, and the valence we ascribe to it. Now, obviously, there's neurological mechanisms like the amygdala, which emotionally codifies memories and tells us how, and it's part of the limbic system that tells us how to respond to future and past threats. But, in the moment, there really is just that moment. Mm-hmm. And then the way we tell ourselves how to feel or how to react. And, as part of the meditation course that I'm taking through the Sam Harris Waking Up app, which again, I'm sorry, this is not sponsored. This isn't us trying, but this has been really helpful for me is, that he does an exercise in, I think I'm on episode 13 or 14 now. I should be way further along. That's on me. And, where he talks about, when you think of your thought as how it happens to, when you look at your mind, you can see the thought emerge. And then where does that go? Where does it come from? And when you look at it and when you analyze it, what happens to it? It dissolves, And so I'm not going to say, 100 times. I'm going to actively be marking that.
We're at 89 already.
Have you been taking a tally count?
Oh, yeah.
Ugh. So, meditation is really, for me, has been really helpful in that way and keeps me really rooted to that moment and really disconnects. And what in acceptance commitment therapy they call diffusion. It's we become
90.
Damn it. We become our thoughts. Like we fuse to our thoughts. And ACT and other sciences really help, mental sciences like CBT, ACT, and DBT really help us to defuse from that. I am not those thoughts. I am not those feelings. I am the person who acknowledges that. I'm the person who's aware. I'm the awareness behind all of that. And that really radicalized. I don't think that's the right word. That really revolutionized the way that I handle my anxiety because I realized I'm not the anxiety. I'm the person behind it who experiences it. And it's like almost overnight, like that split happened. And that was because of the book, The Untethered Soul, which I've talked about before. And it was really helpful. It kind of paints everything in terms of energy and really showed me, like, you're not those things. You're not, you're the person who, it's almost like when things go down an assembly line, you're like, it's like the example that's in my head right now is like when you go to a fair and like the ducks and they go down like the plastic ducks and you draw one up and you have it's like you're seeing a row of ducks float down and the ducks are obviously the metaphor for thought and like we paint them like our brain paints them with these colors like red is like angry and blue is sad and like yellow is happy and we're painting all these ducks but they're coming down gray like they don't really have a color. And meditation really helps you to see that and puts you back in control, which as much as in control as you can be, or maybe at peace with, which has the illusion of control that you're not in control.
Yeah. I think it's more about coming to terms with just being at peace, not being in control, like you said. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's my metaphor for it. That's what my noggin generated.
Yeah, it works. I like it.
Yeah, and I know we've talked about a lot of other visualization exercises, but yeah, I like my ducks. So it sounds like old Thick Neck. I can't do it because I feel like he's a very respectable. I don't feel like he deserves to be knocked off the post. So I'm gonna refer to him as Mr. Han.
Have you seen his neck?
No, I haven't.
I don't think it's that thick.
Okay, all right. Well, I guess more research is probably needed to determine what the average diameter of the neck radius should be.
The problem is I reference it. I just can't remember his name. Thick Not Han.
But you just created a mnemonic for yourself because now you're just like Thick Neck. Oh yeah, that's the guy.
But I'm so much more compelled to call him Thick Neck because it's funny.
Well, we determined that he's still alive.
Yeah.
That's right. Well, if he ever listens to this podcast or if he ever finds out who we are, you're gonna have some very, very very big boots to kind of rationalize yourself against.
I'll talk to him.
He'll probably be like, that's fine.
Yeah, I can't imagine him.
Are you living a good life?
Send me a cease and desist letter. Be like, yo, what happened to the meditating? Didn't know we had to get lawyers involved.
He's like, because of you, I don't wear any shirt that doesn't have a turtleneck because I am so embarrassed.
It's like, I have actually thrown away my entire life dedicated to Buddhism. I had an existential crisis.
You've made me an aesthete. You've made me focus purely on the aesthetics, and now I must bulk up my neck. So that's good. So I think meditation has a lot to say about uncertainty. There's a great book that I recommend everyone read who's ever gone through suffering loss. It's called After the Darkest Hour by her name is Kathleen Brahoni, but I was trying to figure out how to say she has a PhD. I was trying to be like the doctor or the MD or I was trying to give her make sure she got her due.
Say the good doctor. The
good doctor, Kathleen. And really, it's all about how she, as a psychologist, works with. She does a little bit of everything, grief counseling and everything, and she works with people who very explicitly have experienced grief and suffering and loss, and she talks a lot about in the kind of through line. The reason I bring this up is because whenever those traumatic life events happen, like how I kind of pontificate and how I kind of ruminate about the death of the people that I love and have a great relationship with now, it's always uncertain. It's always it's unexpected. It comes out of nowhere. And when you understand that, it's kind of terrifying because, you can, and she talks about her own family members being in an accident for the first few parts of the books and how luckily they were okay, but how she didn't know and how very rapidly things can change. And, she talks a lot about different strategies for managing that, and I think that has a lot to do with how we handle uncertainty. Now, this is kind of in the vein of dealing with loss and grieving, but with any change or trauma in our life, is there not loss? Is there not suffering? There's the suffering of day-to-day life, I think, those kind of micro traumas that happen to us. And so she has a lot to say about that. And there's, I think a 10-point or 12-point plan in the back of her book that's part of the last chapter that she really talks about that. Like some of those are getting a good sense of humor, which we talked about earlier is creating good boxes, like making sure you have a good support system, making sure that you're in, you're within a good social network and with your friends and family. And things like that, and there's a bunch of other ones. But yeah, I really think that that's a great book, and it really dives into the minute-to-minute, the thought-to-thought of grief and loss and suffering. And I think it really shows, again, how we handle, things day to day, and how a lot of us are very unprepared to handle any big change. I think that to learn how to navigate the uncertainty is really a life skill, akin to kind of critical and analytical thinking or anything else. It's not something we're born with natural hydraulic, if we put our hand on a stove, obviously we pull that away. That's very classical reflexiological conditioning. But to handle a big what is my life going to, what if I move to Cincinnati, what will that be like? If I decide to join the military and do this, what will that be for my life? Or if someone I really care about is going about their life and they get a terrible disease or in an accident, how will I handle that? We don't really think that way.
No.
And I guess it's surprising to think that, because it seems like our bodies are like this perfect self-repairing, self-preservation, series of systems that I almost feel like maybe that's just the next step. That's we're not there yet. We're not there to be to handle those kind of things. And I think that's what meditation and mindfulness and all these different strategies we talked about are really good for.
Yeah, that's actually one of the there's different sections of Buddhism, but one of them is just it pretty much states that life is suffering,
that's the first noble truth of Buddhism.
Oh yeah, there it is. And that's one of the reasons they seek enlightenment, is because once you are enlightened, you don't get reborn through reincarnation. If it's one of those that believe in that. Not all Buddhism believes in reincarnation. Thick Neck's version is
in the middle of a very, very excellent, deep monologue. You still call him Thick Neck.
Yeah, we know who we're talking about. Yeah. He doesn't believe in reincarnation, and he's cool with it.
So interesting. So, part of that uncertainty, is kind of written into the first law, which is like life is suffering. And I'm pretty sure, I thought it was called samsara, but it might be called something else. And that is everything is suffering. And I know there's 4 noble truths, and, I think there's 4, maybe there's 3. Again, that's my ignorance. But, the next step or 2 of that is that, to let go of everything, is to cut all attachment and ties to everything and just exist. And that is kind of what neuroscience and what science, the kind of blend of Eastern and Western science and philosophy are kind of mashing. And we're seeing a lot of these kind of new age books that are coming up in new studies and research that are being done on the amazing benefits of this and how it can help you. Like, it can really help you cope with that uncertainty, because the anxiety that comes from that uncertainty, if we go to battle with that and we grapple with it, we're feeding into it, we're giving it that energy. And if we just allow things to be and not to react to things and not create, as they call it, that energy blockage, and not kind of stack up our reservoir with, pointless things and stop filling it up with all these pointless, these thoughts and these opinions and feelings, that we can be open and really allow that openness of the moment and the reality of it to set in. And that's really, so that's why I want to circle back around to my buddy Ram Dass. Do you know what his real name is?
No.
It's Richard Alpert. That does not sound like the name of like a guru and like a mastermind. That's
Is he from Jersey?
Hey, Richard. And so Richard Alpert, he was born Richard Alpert. He actually he did a lot of things. Actually, in the 60s, in 62, he wrote a book on child rearing, because he was studying psychology, and he actually worked at all these different departments, these different universities. But he met Timothy Leary, who hopefully you've heard of Mr. Leary.
Yeah.
What did Mr. Leary do, Kyle?
He rode bikes. No, he created acid.
Yeah, he synthesized lysergic acid dalmathide, and Ram Dass actually met Timothy Leary, and they were a part of kind of that counterculture. This is before acid and LSD were banned by the government, arranging as a Schedule I narcotic with no medicinal value, which of course we've seen how that's gone, and. So, they actually had all these parties and all these different events where they, I think they called it the estate, where they were, and they had all these parties, and they thought that this psychedelic, so here's an interesting thing about Ram Dass before I kind of get into the next part of how he, the book and everything, is that he actually got let go from the university he was at because they did an experiment where they wanted to see if they could use psychedelics as an entheogenic, which entheogenic means psychedelics are entheogenics, but they were still doing research on it at that time. Entheogenic means to basically induce an experience of God-like, like to experience like what it's like to experience God, like a religious experience. So they actually they did a double blind, but it wasn't done the right way. And they gave one group of people niacin, which make their face red to kind of similar have that religious experience, and the other people got psilocybin, which is the active psychedelic ingredient in mushrooms. And they, of course, said, like, they actually checked in, and someone actually checked in 25 years later to talk to those people, part of the experience, and they still say that that's in the top 5 most moving religious experiences they've ever had in their life, which, of course, it's hard to imagine that they couldn't have.
Yeah.
So,
wait, that was the psilocybin group, right? Not the nice.
Yeah, I would assume. They were like, they gave them like a cup of punch, and they were like, "This is the best punch I've ever had."
I see God.
I see God in this punch. They were like, "Can I get this?" They're like, "No, it's a controlled substance." They're like, "I will do anything to get more of that punch."
Like, all right, go to Kroger.
Dude, it's just Kool-Aid, man. So Richard Alpert at this time, he actually, because of his experience with these psychedelics and kind of, he didn't really feel like, he talks about this experience where, and I don't know if this is before or after he went over and studied under a guru and got his guru name Ram Dass, which is Baba Ram Dass. He talks about how he was in a hotel with Timothy Leary, and I think it may be in that party era, and how he did it, and how he walked back into his room or another room in the area where he and the group were, and he saw like a vision of himself like 8 feet away, and it was him, in like a hat and with glasses, like his professor, like when his professorship. And he was like, oh, well, I guess I don't need that anymore. So it like disappeared. And then it turned into like him as a pilot. And he's like, I guess I don't need that either. And then it finally, like after all these incarnations of himself, it became just him. And he was like, oh no. I'm like, am I ready to let go of this too? Like, do I not need that? And then it started to dissolve and he started to panic. And then, he, of course, being the well-versed person he was, he knew that he was tripping. And so he did his best to kind of calm himself down, hopefully to meditate. And he was okay with that. And he realized that awareness is what's left. Like when the ego and your illusions of self, plug for last episode, are completely dissolved, you're still there and you're still the awareness and you still exist. And he found, incredible peace in that. And that's just one anecdote. So the book, the reason I bring him up is because for the uncertainty and everything is that he co-authored, I think right before, he died actually December 22nd last year.
Oh.
2019. Yeah, it was really terrible. I didn't realize that till I was looking this up for today's episode. And he co-authored a book with Mirabai Bush called Walking Each Other Home. And it's about death. And it's about losing and, the suffering. And so, he talks a lot about how, like I kind of talked about earlier in the, about, life is kind of this dance of impermanence, nothing lasts, everything, is kind of in flux, and how, when you really accept that, whether it be through taking LSD or through meditation or, through other methods that I can't think of right now.
Mushrooms,
which is, yeah.
DMT.
Any other psychedelic
Niacin.
Substance. Yes, nice fruit punch. That the first thing that we kind of have to do in the work to addressing this uncertainty, especially when it comes to a fear like death that we all feel, this kind of fear of not being existing anymore, is to first of all not run away from it anymore. Is to kind of really examine. And I'm not saying that as it's easier that I've done that. I definitely have not put in that soil work to do that, but he talks about that, and that he, through all those experiences, and one of the things that I kind of skipped over was that he actually had a stroke. He had a terrible stroke that left him paralyzed for a long time, I think several months, and he had to go through all this surgery. And he actually, by the time he got done with everything, he was in a wheelchair. And he's still like, he had what's called expressive aphasia, where he knew what he wanted to say, but he would have to struggle sometimes to find that word, to get that word in front. But he said, and this is interesting, and it's called Fierce Grace, is the documentary about that. And the reason why is because he said that his master, his yogi that he studied under, which is, I think, I'm going to butcher the name, I'm not going to try, gave that to him to teach him to be more grace, to teach him grace. Like, I had all this life, I had all this opulence, this decadence in my life, and now that's all been taken from me.
Well, he said his yogi like made him have a stroke?
So that's what he attributes it to. He says, because his yogi said something like, I'm going to give you a gift or something like that, like when they were studying together. And then, years later he had that stroke. And so in his mind, that's what he tells people. Like, he gave that to me so I could become more graceful. I could live more honestly. I could live more truthfully.
Or how his yogi feels about that. He was
well,
like, I gave you a bowl of rice, man. That was being a good host.
That's being a good host. I swear to God, I didn't give you
blaming me for a stroke.
I swear to God, dude, I did not mean to do that to you. I was just trying to give you rice.
Come on, man.
I don't do what.
You're ruining my business.
Well, and I think his yogi had actually passed away several years before that, because he had a picture of him on the hospital wall where he was, recovering.
Oh, kind of odd to have that up there if he's the reason you're in the hospital,
Well, so when I say, so let me be clear. Like, he's saying that he's just saying that he was given to him. Obviously, there's no way his yogi did that to him, like, unless he was a wizard or something. But like, he attributes that to that practice that he did with his yogi, because that was his way, I think, of coping with it. Like, oh, this is to make me stronger. This isn't to break me down. This is so that, and so he talks about Mirabai Bush, who's the co-author of the book, who writes who basically recorded all of their conversations, and then I think it was actually finished. The book was finished posthumously after Ram Dass passed away. But she asked him all these questions about it, and when did you address this fear of dying? When did you address this kind of lack of control, this uncertainty? And he said it was when that happened, and he and of course on all of his psychedelic adventures, where you confront everything you think you know about yourself and the ego and that person, that illusion, that image of yourself, and how when all of that fades away, you're still left with awareness, you're still left with consciousness. And in those moments, he realized that, like he said that, like when he was on the bed in that hotel room, he was seeing like these flashes of like him dying, and everything he did was him dying, but then there would be a gap. And then it was like, he'd see another terrible image. Like if I went to the door, they would see a middle-aged, naked white guy running down the hall, and that would be terrible. And then he would like have a gap, and then those gaps became longer and longer until then eventually he ventured into the gaps in between those thoughts when they slowed down, and that's where he found peace, and that's where he found his nirvana. And in there he says, I felt like I was dying, and I accepted it, and I was okay with it. And I think that's honestly probably the therapeutic power of psychedelic usage. As it did not take us long to get to this in our series.
Nope. Episode 3.
Episode 3, baby.
We knew it was coming. We just didn't know how soon.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of universities that are doing studies and work on psychedelics and in terms of how what therapeutic value they have, and what they keep finding is that it really helps people address chronic illnesses and fear of death and dying, because especially with someone who can walk you through it and get you through it and talk you through it, that you really come out of the other side, more, you come out of the other side without a fear of that anymore. You recognize it as a basic life process, like I think you had said, or we had talked maybe on or off the cast about, I wasn't, before I was alive, I was stardust and it didn't bother me any. And then when I die, I will go back to that.
Yep.
And I think that is really hard for, especially in typical Abrahamic religious traditions, to accept, because there's so much about the ego and so much about the soul in terms of its weight and its value that we really cling on to.
Oh, yeah.
And whether we subscribe to that or not, whether as a person you do or not, it's really ingrained in our cultural thinking.
Oh yeah, yeah. Whether you believe in Christianity or not, it's it's like you said, it's in all of us. Just being born over here, so many of the values are just. It's
the narrative.
Yeah.
And it's scary, and I think that there's other, and it's so fascinating to think about in terms of like, being in your box of cognition, and that's why I've always wanted to travel or do other things, because I feel like if you go to a place where you don't know the language, where you don't know anybody, you don't know the culture, well, you do, like you can read about it, but to experience it is really to expand your mind, because they have different values, they have different everything, and it's really easy to think that there's only one way to handle a situation. Like there's only one cognitive, one traditional, one religious, etc. way. And there's not. There's all these other incredibly amazing that have helped millions of people that you don't even know in places you've never been to. And all you have to do is learn about it or go there, experience. I just think that's crazy to me, is that all it takes is like one teeny tiny catalyst, and then you learn this life-changing way to handle things. I just think is really crazy.
Isn't there like a direct correlation between closed-mindedness, like racism, and not ever leaving your hometown?
Yeah, I would say so.
I'm pretty sure there's been a study done about that. Like the more you travel, the less racist you are, particularly.
Like the more you travel, the less racist you are?
Did I say the less you travel? Yeah. Oh, no. The more you travel, sorry.
The more you travel, the more you see
the more
everybody.
You hate
and
everyone.
The more you're like, wow, you aren't like me at all.
No. It's like the people that have never stepped foot outside their hometown are the ones that are more likely to not identify other people as them.
Yeah, there's another great book called Deer Hunting with Jesus, and without getting political, Deer Hunting with Jesus. the author's from West Virginia, and he talks about his experience, and he gets an education. I think he's one of the only family members who gets out and who learns higher education experience, gets to it learns cognitive skill sets and an academic skill set in order to handle things. And he talks a lot about his experience growing up, and without getting too far out of left field or anything, I think there's definitely some there's definitely a correlation there between a small worldview and a small hometown.
When I think of the title "Deer Hunting with Jesus," I just hope that there's a picture of Jesus on the cover in like camo, holding a rifle with a MAGA hat on. That I would love that.
I think it's unfortunately like a car or like a small town diner or something.
That has nothing to do with deer hunting.
No, it doesn't. But no, I think that would almost be too blasphemous to some people, and it might turn off the viewership.
But it's funny.
It is funny. I know that. That would be ideal. Because, like if Jesus, assuming, you could just see him being like, what? He's out there, the camo, and he's like, all right, what do I do, Jesus? He's like, well, first of all, you don't kill that animal.
Yeah, like, what are you doing?
Second of all,
let's just imagine Jesus
talk.
being unsuccessful in a hunt. Like, damn it. Just can't figure it out. It's like all the animals are running away from him. I used to be so in tune with nature.
I know. It's like what happened when I transcended humanity? I lost a little bit of my humanity. Well, that's a nice little bookend.
Yeah.
And we covered a lot of ground today.
Yeah, we did.
Well, thank you so much for joining us for episode 3 of Savage Discourse. We hope you enjoyed the content and our discussion about things both lighthearted and real.
Mm-hmm.
The real. If you like it, please like or subscribe. Leave a comment below if there's anything you'd like us to talk about. You can email us at savagediscoursepodcast@gmail.com.
Yeah.
Let us know a topic. If there's anything, if you want us to answer a question in our own experiences and way of doing so, please email us. We'd love to have that. That's my part for the goodbye.
Goodbye.
Thank you so much, guys. We'll see you next week.